Good evening, it's Sunday, so we've got our Sunday bum day workout. This evening we're doing 3 movements. We're going to do 10 reps on each side of the first 2 movements, and then 10 reps of the last movement, and then we're going to cycle that round. I'll go through the movements first. So our first one, we're going to do our single leg deadlifts. We're going to place our weight onto one foot, keeping that foot underneath the hip. We're going to hinge from the hip, keeping our back straight. You can use something for support, either a chair, the wall, anything if you need balance. We're going to drop the hand down towards the foot as we kick the leg back. So you can either, for stability, keep that back foot on the floor, hinge from the hips just as low as you can go, keeping the back flat, or you can take that leg with you. Again, keeping the back flat, hinging. We want to feel tension build up in the hamstring, and then bringing it back up. We're going to do 10 of those on each side. Then we're going to come down to the floor. Hands underneath shoulders, knees underneath hips. We're going for our fire hydrants. So we're taking the leg out to the side, bringing it back in, making sure that we're not tipping the hip. We're keeping our hips level. We're going to do 10 on one side. We're going to do 10 on the other. Then we're going to take it down onto the floor. You can either lay flat or prop yourself up on your forearms. And then we're going to do 10 in total, lifting the legs at the same time. So starting with our single leg deadlifts. If you know you have a second best side, do that side first. Hand onto something for balance if you need to. We're hinging from the hips, going for 10 reps. So we're going to tip down, lift yourself back up. Build that tension in the hamstrings, squeezing the glute and the hammy to bring yourself up. 10 in total. Make sure you're still breathing with the reps. Keeping that back nice and flat. When you've done 10, we're going to change it to the other side. Same on the other side, foot underneath the hip. Either planting that back foot or taking it with you. Keeping the back nice and flat. As you lower down, build tension in the hamstring. Engage and bring it back up. Perfect. On 10 reps, bring it down to the floor, hands underneath shoulders, knees underneath hips, going for our fire hydrants, taking the knee out to the side, squeezing for 1, bring it back in, lifting for 10. So lift, hold, bring it back in. On 10, changing it over to the other side. Same on the other side, lift, squeeze at the top, bring it back in, 10 reps. On 10, bring it down to the floor. Either propping yourself up on the forearms or laying flat, whichever feels more comfortable for you. Lifting both legs together, squeezing the glutes, lowering the legs back down. 10 reps in total. Perfect. On 10, press it back. We're going to do all of that again, starting with our single leg deadlifts. Planting one foot onto the floor, foot underneath the hip. Again, either planting that second foot on the floor for support, hinging from the hip, or taking it back with you. Loading tension to hamstring, squeezing to come back up. 10 reps. change it over to the other side. Same on the other side, planting that foot, dropping the chest. Build tension in the hamstring as you bring the chest down, just taking it as far as you can go, keeping a flat back. Perfect. On 10, bringing it down to the floor. Then for our fire hydrants, hands stacked underneath the shoulders, knees underneath the hips, taking the leg out to the side, bringing it back in, going for 10 reps. Making sure you get that squeeze, that engagement at the top before you bring it back in. On 10, take it over to the other side. On 10, bring the body flat to the floor. Either propping yourself up on your forearms or laying flat, lifting both legs together for 10. On 10, pressing yourself back. And we've got one more round. Back up to standing. Weight onto one foot. Bring the other leg behind, hinging from the hips, 10 reps. Nice flat back, build tension in the hamstring. On 10, we change it to the other side. Same on the other side, foot underneath the hip, hinging from the hip, pressing the hips back as we drop the chest. On 10, bring it down to the floor. We've got our fire hydrants, hands underneath shoulders, knees underneath hips, lifting the legs, squeezing before you bring it back in. When you've done 10, over to the other side, same lift, squeeze, bring it back in. On 10, bring it down to the floor, laying the body flat, either laying down, propping yourself up, lifting both legs together for 10. On 10, press it back into your child's pose. We're just going to rest in child's pose. Coming out of child's pose, we're going to take it into a glute stretch. So we're going to have one leg bent. We're going to cross the other leg over the top with the knee pointing up to the ceiling. We're going to rotate our body in towards that top leg, in towards the top bent leg. Rotate, place the other hand down to the floor behind us. Sitting that top leg hip into the floor. Think about lengthening from the hip to the knee, like you're trying to pull an elastic band apart. Gently rotating in towards the leg, trying to lengthen that knee away, get a nice stretch into the glute. change it over to the other side. Bending the other leg underneath, crossing the other leg on top, same on the other side. Taking the opposite arm to scoop the knee, placing the other hand down behind our back. Trying to sit that hip down to the floor, lengthen the knee away from the hip. Imagine that you're trying to sit up nice and straight, like there's a string pulling from the top of your head. The last one we're going to do is our butterfly stretch. So bringing both feet in front of you, just letting the knees drop down to either side. You can either think about pulling the chest forward, or if you feel like you want to increase the stretch individually, press one hand behind, place the other hand onto the knee, gently pressing that knee down to the floor. That should open that hip up. And changing it over to the other side. If you've done each side individually, if you stayed in the middle, just keep trying to pull the chest close to the floor. You can use the elbows to press the knees down at the same time. Nice and gently coming out of that. Have a little shake of the legs. You can drop the knees side to side, moving through the hips. Well done everyone, have a lovely evening. If you've got any questions about any of the movements we've done, just drop a comment.